Hello and welcome back to Tales. My name is Fumi, and today I'm going to be diving into the world of fashion. I'm going to be talking about a particular indigenous Nigerian brand that has a huge, massive cult following. And when I say cult, I'm not referring to the confraternities or even the unlawful societies that we know them to be, but I'm talking about dedicated, loyal customers, not just here in Nigeria or even in Africa, but these customers would literally fly to other parts of the world to get a piece of this clothing owned by this brand called Dyelab. And I'm sure just by looking at the visuals in this video, you're thinking to yourself, I have something similar, and I'm sure I can do that by just buying a fabric in my local market, give it to my tailor or my seamstress to make, and it will come out looking like this. I bet you can. And I bet you probably have something like this. And I bet you feel like mothers and aunties, African mothers and aunties, have been wearing something similar for many years. They have. But the way Dyelab has positioned themselves in the market, when I tell you they're the leading right now, currently in Nigeria, they're like one of the top five, if not like the number one in terms of the leading fashion brand when it comes to sustainable clothing, making use of Adire, which is tie and dye materials. But really, we need to get to the brain behind this brand, right? And the brain is none other than Ruki Ladoja. Ruki Ladoja is a Nigerian who started Dyelab in 2021, I believe. But before then, she had another brand called the Grey Project, which she started in the late 2000s. So she's been in this space for a very long time. Reading from an article from OK Africa, she says that in 2019, a decade after launching the brand, she had to shut down great projects because sourcing supplies in Nigeria was very difficult. And even when she could get supplies, the finished products would often sit in warehouses going to waste because she would source fabrics or materials from Nigeria and take it abroad and give it to the local tailors abroad to recreate the African designs that she had in mind. But the ideas obviously given it to foreign tailors was foreign to them, and she didn't really like the finishing of the work. So she said, you know what, it's time to call it quits. So she, after 10 years of starting great projects, and when the COVID pandemic hit as well, she said she wasn't really going into that sort of line of work anymore. So what she did was she found retailers in the area and asked them if they could house and sell, the pieces she had already created, like the agbada kaftans. And all of these kaftans took inspiration from the traditional Yoruba styles and the dyeing process, which we call adire. But she further went on to say that none of the retailers in the abroad wanted to buy it, and that was a shame. So she just took to teasing a product themselves. You know how they'll say walk the runway and model yourself. What she would do was that she would wear her pieces on Zoom meetings and around friends, and everybody were like, "Oh, I want to buy that," because obviously the pieces looked really fab. So it was more of like word of mouth than modeling herself. So, girl, do your thing, get your business out there first by yourself, marketing by yourself. Listen to me. And soon the interest grew organically because when I tell you that the way people rush Dialab clothes, and this is no way sponsored anyway, but it's just a reality. Because I went to a pop up store sometime last month in Lagos at Abo Point, and the stalls had different well, in fact, it was just made in Nigeria. So you had made in Nigeria clothes, made in Nigeria shoes, jewelry, makeup, and there were different stalls that catered to Adire. I think Adire is in season, so we had so many stalls that were like made in Nigeria Adire fashion. But Dye Lab stall was the only one that had a queue outside, a very long queue. So you had to be on the queue to get any piece. It was that bad. The interesting thing about this story was that the initial brand that she had, which was Grey Projects, she sourced the material. So there were local materials here from Nigeria. She took it over to the abroad where she resided and gave it to abroad tailors. So when I say that, I mean like foreign tailors, tailors that were not Nigerian. So the style that she had, the inspiration that she had, the tailors didn't really get it. But now she changed that model. She changed the structure. This time around, she's sourcing her materials like she did with Great Project. She's sourcing her materials here from Nigeria and giving it to local tailor to recreate her imagination, the inspiration, and the local tailors are getting it. She creates them in small batches. And the funny thing about Dialab is that they don't even have a physical store here in Nigeria. At least I've not seen anyone here in Lagos. They don't have a physical store. They operate solely by their website, but they do the occasional pop-up stores from time to time here in Lagos and in other parts of the world. So they do Lagos, USA, Atlanta. I mean, if you are a Dialab cult follower, a sincere Dialab fan, then you know that the pop-up stores really sell out. Or am I lying about that? And the funny thing about this brand is that their clothings or their items don't come cheap. They don't come cheap. So they cater to a selected few. But if you really, it's like saying you're saving up to get a Gucci, or you're saving up to get a Prada, or you're saving up to get one of these top brands, UK, US, Paris, or whatever. That is how they have repositioned themselves to be. So if you want a dye lab and you can't off the top of your head or just put your hands inside your wallet and get out your credit card or your debit card, you really have to save for it. Some of the materials, some of the pieces go as high as what, $200 or $300 I hear. I'll tell you some of the comments I read on TikTok lately about some of the people that got dial-up clothing. So a TikTok user mentioned, if you guys want to get compliments, just wear your dial-up boo boo. Another TikTok user wore this Dyelab. She said, "Oh, Dyelab is my fit." She doesn't appear to be Nigerian. She's a TikTok user. She said, "This is my fit: Dyelab, Boo Prada sandals, Fendi sunglasses." See what I was saying? So people are now conditioning themselves to wear Dyelab with other designer accessories. So I mean, you can't wear Dyelab. I mean, people are doing it, but ideally, you have to wear Dyelab and match it with other, you know, I luxury accessories, if you get what I mean. I like this one. Another lady on TikTok said, Dialab is the original rich Ansi uniform. See what I mean? And there are many more comments like this, and there's so many celebrities that have been wearing Dialab. I mean, you have Jackie I know, you have ink, you have, I mean, Dialab is not just for men, for women. Like I said, it caters to men as well. So it is, and I love the colors are it is so colorful. I think that's the beauty of it, because they started this whole color block boo boo and everybody has now run with it. And she also she, one of the interviews, she said that people are now copying her, but she does a lot of pastel colors as well. It is really, really nice. And one thing I love about the brand is the fact that they've been able to position themselves not just as a local or indigenous company, but now an international brand. Imagine selling out pop ups, not just in Nigeria, here, in Africa, in the US. And people now know Adire for what it is. People are now pairing Adire clothing with other luxury brands like Prada, Fendi, and it speaks volume to what we can do here in Nigeria, what we can do here in Africa. And I'm rooting for this brand all the way, and looking forward to the next pop up. That said, if you own a dye lab, would you consider yourself as a cult follower? Like, what made you get your dye lab outfit? And I guess I can ask, how many dye lab outfits do you have? Are you one of those that had to travel to other states just to attend a pop up? I'd love to know all of this in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.